Okay, good morning and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube. Just Daf It. Today we're doing Nedarim Daf Chav number 28. Continuing to talk about Nedarim Onsen, taking a nether when you're forced to take the nether. This Mishnah discusses a different type of Nedarim Onsen. The Mishnah says, 3 lines from the bottom of Chav Zayim and Beis, Nodrin Lahergin Ulechermin Ulemuchsin. People threaten to kill you, right? Unless you give them your possessions, right? So you're going to take a nether that belongs to the king or it's truma. Apparently, this guy wants to kill you, but he's careful not to eat truma. Or a chairman, someone who wants to steal all your money. Or muhsin, or people who are tax collectors. You'll see they're fake tax collectors. They're not part of the IRS. She truma. You swear that it's truma. You could swear, take a nether, that it belongs to the king. It's royal possessions. All right. It's the royal diamond. So, even though it's national based on Mishami says you can take a nether about everything. Chutz mivishvua. You can take a nether, but you can't take a shvua. Shvua, we mentioned, is more severe. Torah says lo yinake. Take a shvua, false shvua is more severe, right? It's one of the Aseres Hadiros. He still allows you even to use a shvua, even because it's a situation of onus. In a situation of onus, we allow you to do this. I mentioned yesterday, Yid Ben Sion, the correct shah, I believe, in Nidrei Onsen is not that it doesn't take effect, is that it takes effect, but you're allowed to violate your nether or your shvua here. I'll explain this more in Yid Ben Sion today, based on a question I left off with yesterday. In Yid Ben Sion, Bishami says, you're not allowed to suggest, even though you're allowed, if he says take a nether, you're allowed to take a nether, but you're not allowed to suggest, I'll take a nether to the effect that they're truma or they're the royal possessions. He still says even you can suggest it. If you only take a nether on what he tells you to make a nether, you're allowed to add on to your nether even things that he doesn't suggest that you take as a nether in order to affirm and to corroborate your nether to make it look stronger. Ketzad, how does the last clause in our Mishnah play out? Amar lo, Amar konam ishti nenesli. The guy says to him, yeah, you want to prove to me it's truma? Take a nether that if it is not shal truma, then your wife should be usher to you. Amar konam ishti ubana nenenli. He says, not only my wife not get pleasure from me, but also my children won't benefit from me financially. Beishamai omrim, ishtam muteras banav asur. And if he does this, right, his wife is permitted to get hana from him, not his children. And both of them are permitted to get hana from him. The Gemara says, Amar Shmuel, how can you do this? How can you swear falsely? Dina malchusa dina, right? We're talking about people who are presumably not Jewish, or they're Jewish, but they're acting on account of the kingdom. How could you lie to them? How could you lie to this tax collector? This is specifically talking about the last case, the person who's collecting taxes, right? If he's threatened to kill you or to plunder, steal all your money, fine, it's an onus. But to deny money from the tax collector, if you owe taxes, you're not supposed to evade your taxes. Tax evasion, it's punishable after 10 to 15 years in prison or something like that. I don't know exactly what the laws are in America. I don't know about Israel. We're talking about a tax collector who, yes, he's an IRS agent. He's allowed to collect taxes. He's allowed to tell you have to pay taxes. However, he is a very machmir IRS agent. He wants you to give half your money to taxes when you don't really have to give all your money to taxes. He's just an IRS agent that wasn't appointed by Biden. Biden, even though he gave 87,000 new jobs to IRS agents, this was the 87th and first that wasn't appointed by Biden. So he decides to collect taxes on his own. So therefore, it's an onus. The guy is threatening to you, obviously, to hurt you or to report you to the government. You're allowed to swear falsely to him because it's not through the power of the kingdom of the country that you're in. What exactly is the lashon of his nether? Amar Rav, Omer, Yasru Peras Olam Allah, Manage Beis HaMelech. The neder, he says, is that all the fruits in the world. It's a pretty difficult neder to keep, right? You can't eat any fruits all over the world for the rest of your life. Manage Beis HaMelech. I take a neder to the fact that they must be royal possessions. Otherwise, I will not get benefit from any of the fruits in the world. Came on Damar Yasru, Ithru Allah, Kol Piri Alma. So, how does this take effect? I mean, once he says that all the payros are usher to him, and it's not royal possessions, he's lying that it's royal possession. How could it be? Technically, the neder should take effect. Omer Hayom. So the Gemara says, he says Hayom. If he says that all the payros in the world are usher me just today, Lo Makabel Min Muchas, the tax collector, he's not going to believe him because he just asked for the fruits for today, so okay, it's not so hard to avoid eating fruits for one day. So how do I know that he's telling the truth? But Omer Belibo Ayom, he says in his mind, he says today, he says all the payros in the world are usher to me, right? He doesn't specify how long, but if you say it's stam, so it sounds forever, and then in his heart he says hayom, he quantifies only a day. Moti b'svasav stam, he just says with his mouth, he says all the payros in the world are usher to me, and then his heart says, in his mind he says today, right? Afagav, what's the chiddush? Normally, when your heart contradicts or makes a stipulation on what you say or clarifies what you say, we don't believe what's in your heart. Lagabi untin shiny by onus, it's different. Onus, we allow you to reckon what's in your heart. I'll explain this line in the Gemara over here. Does this really mean that Dvarim should believe are like Dvarim over here, or even though Dvarim should believe are in the Dvarim? Here we allow you to violate your neder, which is what I suggested yesterday. We'll talk about that more. Niyad ben Sion. Beishamai Ram B'chol. Beishamai Ram Meshu Madira. Beishil Omrim Af Mesha Ena Madira. Keitzad. Amar Lakon Mishin Yanesli. Amar Lakon Ishtu Banai Nenenli. Beishamai Omrim Ishtu Mutaris Banai Asur. Beishil Omrim Elil Mutaris. This is a quote from a Mishnah. Amar Ravuna Tana Beishamai. Ravuna brings a brisa. Beishamai Ram Leyiftach La B'Shvua. Beishamai says you shouldn't take a shvua, right? We said a neder he allows you to take. Even you could take a shvua. Lebei Shammai b'shvua. So the Gemara is medayek from this brayso. Lebei Shammai b'shvua to liftach have a neder yiftach, but shvua you shouldn't take. But a neder yiftach he didn't even suggest taking a neder. Lo v'atanan, but Mishnah says Beishamai lo yiftach lo neder. They allow you to take a neder if he tells you take a neder, but to suggest I'll take a neder to the fact that they belong, they're truma or they're Beis HaMelech. You can't do that. Another question. Right? He can't suggest a shvua. Hameder another b'shvua. But he could, if he asked to take a shvua, he could take a shvua. This is also contradictory from a Mishnah. You can't take a shvua. Even if he asked to take a shvua, you can't take a shvua. So the Gemara answers, the Mishnah, the way the Mishnah was phrased, we talk about a neder to tell you the power of Beis Shammai that even by a neder, they don't allow you to take unless he suggests taking the neder. But certainly a shvua, even if he's just taking a shvua, and also a neder, you can't suggest taking it. Tana Baraisa, the Braisa's Kadesh, but shvua talks about a shvua. The Beis Hillel, I'll tell you Beis Hillel, the Beis Hillel allows you even to take a shvua, even to suggest taking a shvua. Rav Ashi gives different explanation to this Braisa, why it wouldn't contradict the Mishnah. According to Rav Ashi, this Braisa is not talking about an onus. It's not talking about the person is threatening to kill you or to steal all your money. It's talking about a question: could you do a Pesach? We talked about Sheila, right? You could be matir neder, right? Could you be matir a shvua, right? Like a shvua that I'm going to eat something today. And Isra on the Gavra, can you go to a base and be matir a shvua, matir Nedarim, we heard about. Hatar shvua, does that work? Beis Shammai says you can't be matir shvuos. Beis Hillel says the yeshel shvua, you could be matir shvua also, which is important to know. You take a shvua, not a neder. You could also do hataras shvuos, and not just hataras nedarim. The Mishnah, Arena Tilas Elu Korban, and Nixasos, he says about young trees, they are a korban. Now, obviously, trees are not sacrificed on the Mizbeach. However, it is Kedushas Dam. There's Kedushas Hakuf and Kedushas Dam. An animal have Kedushas Hakuf, where you designate it as being for a korban. And you can designate hektish, right? It's a property of the Beis Hamikdash monetarily. So these are a korban. He means to say the kedusha is a mamon, right? And the money, what he means, the reason he says korban is that the money that these saplings are worth should be donated, should be used to purchase a korban. He made an exoso, so he makes it dependent on whether they're cut down. We'll see in the word today. So he says these, if they're not cut down today, they're a korban. Talis do korban, he made an esrefes. This talis that you have, not your Shabbos talis, the weekday talis you have, it's a korban, he made an esrefes. It's not burnt today. Yeshla and pidyon, they have pidyon, which basically is another way of saying that if the t'nai is fulfilled, right? They're not cut down. The saplings are not cut down today. The talis is not burnt. Yeshlan pidyon, they are kadosh, right? They get the status of hektish, and you have to sell it and use the money for a korban. And that's what yeshlan pidyon, meaning you redeem it for a korban. You sell it and redeem it for a korban. Let's say he makes it kedusha, but only for a time, amount of time. These netios are a korban until they're cut down. Once they're cut down, they lose their kedusha. Talis do korban actually started. This talis has kedusha's korban until it's burnt. What's the halacha in that case? So the Mishnah says in Chav Chesam Beis, Ein lahem pidyon. You don't redeem it. The Gemara will explain the Seifa, what exactly this means. Ein lahem pidyon. Is there kedusha or not kedusha? The Gemara will explain. The Gemara says, "If listening kedushos, ve'ein kedushos." Going back to the first page of our Mishnah, right? It should really say. The first statement of our Mishnah basically is to tell you that it has the status of hektish, right? You have to sell it, yeshlan pidyon, redeem it, and buy karbonos with it. Why say the lashon yeshlan pidyon, yeshlan pidyon? Say yeshlan pidyon, they say it's kadosh, and the seifa will be not kadosh. I think the Bible misses seifa, yelahem pidyon, right? This is the seifa. We'll see exactly what the seifa means. It's not really clear what it means, whether it's kadosh or not kadosh. And specifically, you had to write the words yelahem pidyon. So therefore, tanami reisha yeshlan pidyon. Therefore, we phrase the Reisha the same way, and there is pidyon, meaning it is kadosh. You have to redeem it for money to buy karbanos. Hechi nadar. What is the neder he makes? Amar Mimra Omer Nixasas Hayom in the Reisha. He said they're not cut down today. V'avar Hayom v'lo Nixasu. The day passed, and the trees were not cut down. They're not uprooted. So then the Tanai is fulfilled, and they're kadosh. Imke Lamadu Lememar. What's the chiddush of the Reisha of the Mishnah? Pshita, obvious. Let's just go to Zika. Nefisha, it's strong winds that day, right? And therefore, you for sure thought it's going to be uprooted. V'hakasani la gabe talis. The Gemara questions this, but there's two clauses in our Mishnah. There's trees, saplings, and there's a talis. The talis is reifa kaima, right? What's comparable about a talis? A talis is not going to be burned. The Gemara says yes. The case in our Mishnah is talking about where there's a big fire, right, ravaging the town. He really thinks the tree is going to be uprooted, and therefore it's not going to be kadosh. And therefore he thinks the talis is going to be burnt, not going to be kadosh. So therefore, hachanami diika zika nefisha. So that similarly, in the Reisha, there's a strong wind. Sakadaita, what's the chiddush the Mishnah? The masakadaita, the lo minatzlan. He thinks for sure there's no way these trees or this talis will be saved. The trees will for sure be uprooted. The saplings, the young trees, they'll be uprooted in the wind. For sure, the talis will be burnt, and he really doesn't have in mind. Adaiti dahaki, it was a kedusha betos, makdish betos. Nonetheless, Johaki Kanada, that's why he took the neder. Kamash Malan, no, he still had the possibility in his mind that they would not be uprooted, or it wouldn't be burnt to talis. And therefore, he really meant to make a neder, and therefore the neder is chal if they actually are not uprooted, and the talis is not burnt. That's the conclusion of today's shir. Stay tuned for Ian Ben Sion. We discuss more about Nedarim Onsin, and I came up with the answer to the question I left off yesterday's Ian Ben Sion with. You're not going to want to miss it coming up next.